Next on MLR Weekly, head coach of the reigning champion New England Free Jacks, Scott Mathie. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, the TRN Play of the Week, the TRO, the Rugby Odds Picks of the Week, and the best damn recap in Major League Rugby history. Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. To MLR Weekly, as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thank you for tuning in. It's much appreciated. We have a great show yet again for you. We have Scott Mathie, the head coach of the defending champion New England Free Jacks. We have Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. We have John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. But before we get to any of that, we have the best recap in Major League Rugby history. Let's get to it. In Charlotte, North Carolina, 5 different Sabercats purged their way into the tri-zone with the missile. Jeremy Missalego hitting the celebratory catnip twice versus the anthem. Not many positives on the defensive side for Carolina, but Tomasi Alocio did have 147 meters on the ground on 11 carries. Final score, 38-15, Houston. At Choctaw Stadium in Arlington, Texas, a naughty Jackals side was pinged for 17 penalties while scoring 4 tries versus Los Angeles, who happened to score 4 tries of their own. Each team earned a red card, though, and Dallas added a yellow as well in a match a healthy for 5 minutes replica, or RFCLA, jackaled from the hosts via Jordan Chayet's kick at death. Dallas fans were howling about the loss in the lot. Final score, 29-26, Los Angeles. In the Big Easy, NOLA faced the difficult task of taking on 8-1 Seattle. The up-and-down Gold battled the Seawolves tooth and fin in a wild match that had 8 tries scored, 4 by each team. Yeah, another one of those, but Seattle's discipline cost them, and New Orleans held on for an exciting 1-point win as both teams earned the max bonus points. Final score, 32-31, Nolans. In the second city, Chicago was looking to win their 5th straight, but Eastern Conference foe Old Glory, 18 penalties and 3 yellow cards stood in the way. A patient and resilient DC side scored but 1 try and conceded 2 tries to the hosts while the Hounds were shorthanded, yet Old Glory held on for dear life, stealing a huge win on the road. Final score, 22-21. Oh, geez. Note, DC is now 2-0 since head coach Simon Cross came on this show. In Miami, the Sharks breached the whitewash twice in the first half and cruised to a 20-0 lead that lasted until the 73rd minute. But that's when the Warriors went on the warpath, using a try and a penal explosion of yellow cards, that is, by the hosts in the waning minutes to rampage back from dead to gather 19 points by the final horn. Woo! Miami did all they could do to give this one away, but get a desperately needed W, 20-19. Woof. Okay, we could use a break, and we're going to take a break, but we're going to take a coffee break. That's right, our recurring segment, Rugby Mornings Coffee Break with John Fitzpatrick, calling in from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, the District of Columbians. John, welcome back to MLR Weekly. How are you, and what do you got for us?
Hey, Matt, thanks for the welcome. I just got a haircut. Looks like you did, too. Hey, let's roll on. Week 11, quite an upset all across the board. I think we got to start with Nola Gold and the Seattle Seawolves. Matt, raise your hand. Did you have Nola Gold winning that one?
I did not have Nola Gold winning that one, but I believe I had Nola Gold covering the spread against the Seattle Seawolves on the rugby odds, because that's what we aim to do. but great win for NOLA, and actually a good win for the league. You need, NOLA got healthy. They got Teofilo Ed Fido back, not Fido or Fidao, and they got Jordan Jackson Hope back. Not exactly featured, but still a threat in that lineup. So that back line, if they can get everybody healthy at the same time, NOLA could be a team to watch down the stretch. Next.
On last week's episode, we talked about how the Eastern Conference is pretty wide open given some injury concerns. And how about Old Glory DC going into Chicago and knocking off the Chicago Hounds? Yeah, Chicago had to make some, changes in the back lines with paternity leave and injury stuff. But Old Glory DC, in a game not many picked them to win or even be competitive win, got a big W there at SeaTac Stadium. Matt, what did you think of that one?
Well, it's no coincidence that Simon Cross was on the show, and Old Glory is now on a 2-game winning streak, and that goes right with all the twos across their season. 2 ties at 22 points apiece, right? And the 2, all kinds of 2s floating around there. I know I'm missing 1 or 2. Next.
Touche, Matt. Touche. Hey,
you're too much.
I'm too good at this, you would say.
Yes. You're tooting your own horn now, aren't you? Let's move on.
Okay. How about we move on over to the MLR sign? Yeah, I got that last one. An MLR sign and trade deadline. It happened earlier this week. Matt, a couple I want to bring up here. How about the Miami Sharks? They netted a big one. Former Argentine international center, Matias Orlando, 50 caps with Argentina, played at the 2019 Rugby World Cup. He joins the center pairing there in Miami. And I also got to bring up the Dallas Jackals. They have been without the services of capped Eagle Sam Gala. They have brought in former Austin Gilgronis lock Kyle Brettenbach. Matt, what do you think of those 2 moves?
I think, again, it just shows there's attrition. There's a need for depth. 1 or 2 players on a roster can make a big difference if they're out or in. And, fortunately now we have some semblance of a deadline for making these moves. But down the road, who knows what's going to happen? Only the shadow knows. Next.
But Matt, do we really have a deadline? Is it really truly a deadline? Or are we going to have a couple more coming out of the next couple days, weeks?
What is your definition of deadline? Next.
Well, Matt, I'm super excited for your segment with New England Free Jacks head coach Scott Mathie, because I got to know, what is the status of Reese McDonald and Jason Patros? New England big road match against San Diego in Week 12.
That's right, and that is a cliffhanger as we go into our first break and come back with New England Free Jacks head coach Scott Mathie after this. But in the meantime, thank you, John Fitzpatrick. Once again, you were absolutely something. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we are back with one of our favorite guests on the show in the history of this show, New England head coach Scott Mathie. Scott, welcome back to MLR Weekly.
Thanks, Matt. It's always a privilege to be on this show with you. So,
get out of here. Get out of here. Scott, heavy the crown. Is there a curse of the crown? Because New York, when they won it 2 years ago, they got an injury blight. Now you're going through the same thing. What the is it? Teams gunning for you or just bad luck?
Nah, I think it is a bit of bad luck. I think I think someone told me the other day, I can't remember who I was chatting to, and they were talking about Sir Alex Ferguson, and they were like, well, what's important about winning a title or winning a championship? And he says, be lucky. So I think there's an element of that. I think the injuries that we've had have all been quite catastrophic and not soft tissue stuff, very few have. So I think when you get a lot of catastrophic injuries in really strange circumstances, to be honest, like that's not really down to mechanics and training, it's down to a bit of luck. So I think that's what's happened. But what a great opportunity, to see what the squad's made out of and what the next boys up can do. And I think that's what we're getting to see right now, and getting to adapt a little bit to make sure that we're getting the best out of those boys and what they bring to the team.
You know, a lot of teams can't afford to lose a John Poland, a Vian Conradi, Reese McDonald, and now a Jason Patras. And, you know, again, I got to ask you, what's the status of those guys?
Yeah, I think that, like, we've always prided ourselves on the squad, and you know, we never really, no one knew who Reese McDonald was until he came here, you know. So we've got a lot of these like no-name brands, if you will, and there's more no-name brands on the bench, and there's no more no-name brands in the squad. So we've got to back those guys. I think the key thing for us is just making sure that when you lose a player like a Vian Conradi, that you understand whether the player that you bring in has different strengths, and you got to then adapt the team a little bit to figure out how best you can mitigate Vian Conradi being out, but accentuate, you know, the new player and how that fits into the team. So I think that's where we are now, just trying to figure that out, and how we get the best output in a team sense from these new guys coming in, you know. Sorry, to answer your question, I try to get away from that.
Well, I'll get right back at you, Coach. Yeah.
So Reese is doing well. Like, we foresee him being back in a few weeks. We don't have an exact timeline, but he is trending well. Potty touch and go.
All right, so let's stay on the international side of things for 1 second, and it's a bit of a departure, but you're South African, and I'm watching the URC. I don't know if you've been following the United Rugby Championship matches and the European Champions Cup, which shouldn't be the European Champions Cup because there's South African teams in it. But Jake White, head coach of the Bulls, basically sends a B-side to play Leinster in a semifinal, which to me is infuriating and cheats the fans who paid their money to go see the two arguably the best teams in the competition go at it. And then the following week, back home, he gets beaten by Munster. So that backfired on him. What is your take on that? Are you managing players for one competition or the next, or are you trying to win it all? What's your story on it?
I don't know. I think if you look at the history of that comp, I think Leinster did that last year, and they also, I think they lost both of their finals. You know, but there's obviously some sense behind it, or there's some statistical sense behind it. You know, if you've seen Leinster doing it, if you've seen the Bulls doing it this year, that, you know, in that nature of the competition with that travel, there's obviously a lot of data and stuff around the fact that you probably can't effectively compete on two fronts. And yeah, sure, it might have backfired in the result wise, but you know, you got to hang your mast on something, you know. So,
but coach, we're talking about a semi-final, coach, in the European Champions Cup, which South Africa came into, and here you are. I'm like, if you're anything, maybe you tank a regular season match in the URC the following week.
Well, I don't know. Like, I think if you've invested how many 40, 30, I don't know how many weeks, 30 weeks or so into a competition, and the other competition you're only investing 8 weeks in total, you know, which one do you actually value more, you know, in terms of output and all of your resources being put into that? So I think they're probably thinking along those lines, like, we've invested in this. This is our tournament that you know, we've put a flag in the ground in, you know, whereas the other one is just, it's a couple of weeks here and there, and you know, you got to travel away to probably these teams that play at home in that competition don't lose at home very often. So, and you can't, if you can't play back to back with the travel, you know, where do you put your emphasis? So I don't know. I understand the what do you call it, the reasoning around that. I know it doesn't make for happy.
But shouldn't the fan be first? Because if I spend my money to fly to Leinster to watch this match, and then I hear I've already had to pay for my airline, my hotel, and my ticket.
I don't think you guys should be taking that up with Jake White. You should probably be taking that up with the competition organizers rather than the coaches, because you know, that's, I think, where the
okay, that's fair.
Probably lie. I mean, you've heard some horrendous travel stories from some of these competitions.
Your arch rival, head coach of Old Glory DC, Simon Cross, and I know you guys. There's a lot of bad blood between you guys. You got to spread rumors, Coach. Come on, this is about spreading rumors.
Not at all, man. Terrible rumor.
That's fake news, ladies and gentlemen. There is no bad blood yet. You got this tough stretch of the next 7 games. What are your hopes? Do you want to, with the injuries that you're managing and the duration of the season, do you expect to top the division? Do you expect to have a top seed in the playoffs? What's your take?
I think that's the goal. I mean, that's the objective. It's never changed. But like nothing's changed from 2022. Like we've never been a team that focuses too much on the end outcome. That's just not us. I think when we do that as a group, we probably come unstuck. And that's been probably a real tough thing to manage. I think an early part of this year is managing all these we're champions and you got to back to back and all this chat. And I think as that's quietened down, we've been able to get back to what we want to do, and that's every single week, just making that the most important game of for us.
Game to game, it's moment to moment, really.
That's all it is, and it's all it should ever be. You should never take eye off what's coming, because that's probably the most important game you ever play is your next one. So we just try and hone in on that all the time and stay true to ourselves in that time.
Is there a player or two that's pleasantly surprised you this season with their performance?
Yeah, I think, some of the players haven't been given too much of a chance yet. I've been really pleased with. He's actually a Massachusetts local. Well, he's Irish, but he was born in Massachusetts. Is Killian Coughlin. I think he's been really an exciting prospect for us. We haven't seen a lot of him. He's had a couple of appearances off the bench, but I think he's got a big future with us, which I'm really excited about. And then I would say Daniel Morgan Puturangi is really come in and done really well in a variety of positions. I've been really pleased with him, and I think Seta Baker is starting to also show just his capability, which has been great.
All right, I got 2 questions left for you. What are your thoughts on the 2-week break for the international window? In other words, when the Eagles play, we're going to take a couple of 3 weeks off, or 2 weeks off, and your players that are on the Eagles are going to leave you and then come back.
It is what it is. Like, it's not ideal for anyone, I don't think, to have 2 weeks off. But at least we're all in the same boat. I think some of us might lose more players than others, but it's just about how creative we can get around getting the best out of those training weeks, whilst the boys are away. I think on the pro side, like, you're getting guys getting really strong international game, so they're going to be battle readied,
or they're going to be gassed.
Well, that's important for us to manage them in conversations with the respective international coaches to make sure that we manage them in this last block, so that they're not. So there are things that we can control, there are things that we can't. In an ideal world, you don't really want that. You kind of want that after the season. And I think everyone would probably say the same. Like, it's just, jumping to another team and learning all this stuff and then coming back. It's going to be a problem for everyone, So I think those are the discussions most coaches will be having come that time of the season, just how best to mitigate that.
I think it's nutsy cuckoo to have that kind of a break, and how we keep the fans engaged is going to be an experience. On the rugby odds with John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer, King Gifte Belu, the inventor of words, George Hook, the Irish rugby pundit. We had an argument, and you're a smart guy, so I want to put this to you. The plural of hounds. In other words, it's the hounds line out or the houndses line out.
Gee, houndses doesn't sound right, does it?
Damn it! Damn you, Coach!
It doesn't sound right. It might be right, but it doesn't sound right.
I'm in the minority here because I said houndses, but I do have that 5-year English degree from the University of Buffalo, so I don't know if you could trust what I'd say.
Do you know the answer?
I don't. Not yet. And I think this is one of those things that we'll just leave open and have people crush us on Reddit.
Oh, awesome.
Right? All right. Thank you, Coach, for taking the time. Much appreciated. Always great seeing you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, man.
And now your Major League Rugby Play of the Week brought to you by the Rugby Network. To Dallas we go, and what could be the difference between the Jackals making the playoffs or not? Los Angeles grabbed a drop kick by the Jackals just 2 minutes into the match, and after some nifty footwork by hooker Ben Strang, scored a pivotal try. Or did they? If you were watching at home, you didn't see it because of amateurish camera positioning in Season 7 of a professional league. Come on, man. In the important Eastern Conference matchup between Chicago and Old Glory, much was at stake. But Marco Keefe's try at death with his team shorthanded got the Hounds an important bonus point, while Old Glory's huge road win surprised many and put DC back in the thick of things. Down in Miami, the Sharks haven't had much go their way thus far, but in the narrow win over the Never Say Die Utah Warriors, the emergence of Avery Oideman, the speedster and former Toronto Arrow, may provide a much-needed offensive weapon going forward. His burst into the open and timely offload in the 39th minute resulted in Miami taking an important 17-0 lead in what would ultimately become a 1-point victory. And the Rugby Network Play of the Week is Marco Keefe's try at death, salvaging an otherwise disappointing result for Chicago, but earning them that important bonus point in the East. Here's your TRO, the Rugby Odds MLR Picks of the Week via WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate and excellent handicapper John Bradshaw Layfield and King Gift A. Bailu, the Yogi Berra of rugby.
LA has got a bunch of players back, and they look like the team that they did at the beginning of the year. They went through a run, but they did not look very well. They got Anthem, and they are going to absolutely run them off the field, I feel like, with these new players back. It's minus 18 or whatever it is. Take LA.
Utah just came off a loss, but they're going down to New Orleans, and Nola is going to use that confidence, and I do feel like this is going to be a close one, but New Orleans is going to hold the spread and beat this Utah team.
I wouldn't like to be at the bottom of that.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street. This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we're back, and we have the pleasure, the honor of welcoming in Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News and at Ray's Rugby on Twitter/X. Bryan, welcome back to MLR Weekly.
Great to be here, Matt, and great to be joining the show from beautiful New Orleans.
You know what? You always look so relaxed because you're in the Big Easy, you're getting around, you're going all over these places, but did you get your ass kicked for wearing an Arrows hat?
No, they're very kind to us Canadians down here, you know, and thankfully we're not enemies anymore. One day, maybe we will be again.
Let's see what you got in terms of predictions. And we've got these odds courtesy of the Rugby Odds, who are also doing their TRO top 6 teams in the MLR as of this point, and they used math to do it. Anthem hosting LA, who are now without 2 key players in Hollinshead and Emery. Great. 2 integral parts of their back line out now. So this'll change this spread, but right now it's LA minus 18 on the road.
Yeah, I'll go with LA. I'm so disappointed in Anthem's defense. They're falling asleep at times. They're resting when they shouldn't be. It's time to play defense, Anthem. It's time to play defense. So I'm gonna pick LA to beat that spread, even though LA is hurting in a few key positions. So I'll go with LA.
Okay. How about NOLA at home -3 versus your Utah Warriors?
Yeah, I can't pick against NOLA after that kind of performance. I thought that was great. They're going to get Sean Paranihi back, so that's
they got they got healthy in the back line a little bit too.
Yeah, although they didn't really use him that much. We hardly saw Jordan Jackson Hope doing anything, and he's such a key figure. So there's certainly lots of room for improvement for NOLA. I'm expecting to see some of that this week. So I will pick NOLA to beat the Warriors and beat that spread.
Houston at the Cats Meow trademark -8 versus the Hounds. Cats and dogs, Brian. Cats and dogs.
Yeah, Houston gave a few of their key guys a bit of a rest in that game against Anthem, so they should be fairly fresh for this one. Chicago, really not super impressive. I mean, they just got swamped in defense by DC and didn't seem to get any forward momentum in that one. So, you know what? I like Houston's chances at home, so I'll take them to beat that spread.
San Diego at Snapdragon against your New England Free Jacks -3. Who's healthy? Who's not for New England?
Well, that's the big question. Is Jason Patraz going to be playing this one? I do not know the answer to that. This is a tough game to pick. San Diego hasn't been super great, have they? But I'm going to pick my Free Jacks to take this win. It's a rematch of the final. They were 1 point better last year. I'm going to go with the Free Jacks here. I'm going to take the Free Jacks. Even if Patraz isn't playing, I'm going to back my guys from Boston.
You're gutsy. You'll have to see what I pick. Maybe it's the same thing on the rugby odds. Then there's Dallas hosting Seattle, who have lost 2 matches now in the season by a total of 3 points. And it's Seattle on the road in Dallas. Seattle -6, road favorites.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think Seattle really missed Charles Elton out there against NOLA. I think their back row balance was off. I think they'll bring Kara Pryor back in. I would expect him to do that. So I think he'll boost them a little bit, give them a bit of pep up in the forward pack. And man, Dallas losing Isaacs and Winchester. I mean, I guess they'll bring in, probably Kubisha and maybe Naz Valentini to bolster that back line. But still a blow and just a disappointing loss against LA. A game they really should have won. I got to go with Seattle to bounce back from their defeat against NOLA to beat Dallas. Tough against that spread, but yeah, I'll take Seattle to do that.
Oh, great. On that note, I want to thank Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, Mr. Scott Mathie, the head coach of the New England Free Jacks, and thank you for tuning in. Hey, check out the Rugby Odds. It's a fun show with great rugby content. Find it on Your View, Caffeine TV, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, RugbyWrapUp.com. Plus the College Rugby Wrap-Up, which will be launching again soon. And hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Tell your friends about us. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. It's just once a week. And please join our American Red Cross blood donor team if you don't do anything else.